episode 17 of the Deus Ex Cinema podcast. I'm your host, Arron. With me, as always, is Marty Adams, Sureyya Uchuk.
Oh my god, it's been like 4 episodes.
It's been more than 4.
Oh my god.
And special guest, yet again, Macy Havlik.
Hello.
So, Marty, this was your movie this past 3 weeks.
Wait, can we just say we're sorry for missing 2 weeks?
Yeah.
I'm not sorry. It took a while to find it.
A certain somebody drug his feet finding the movie once it wasn't on Netflix or Hulu or the Xbox store.
Or Amazon.
So it's our second movie of our first musical rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Marty, what's the movie?
The Wall by Pink Floyd.
What year did this come out? 1980s?
80.
82. That's what IMDb's telling me.
Yeah. The whole thing started in 79. They worked on it for fucking forever.
Only 3 years.
Yeah, but for something like this.
All right. Well, I guess as usual we can go around and say this is our first time seeing it, that kind of stuff. Maybe any opinions you have on Pink Floyd or relationships. Marty, if you want to go first, it's your movie.
I've seen this many times. I love Pink Floyd a lot. They're the best. All other bands suck.
This is the best band, period.
Let me turn off the pop filter. Period.
Pink Floyd. Sureyya, what about you?
I've never seen it. I didn't know what to expect. I think I'm leaning more towards disliking it.
Okay. Any relation to Pink Floyd?
No,
My mom and my brother like it a lot. I think my brother fakes it though.
No. Her favorite band's Slayer.
Yeah.
Wearing
my
Slayer
shirt that I took from your cousin.
You could say Isaiah.
Isaiah. We took it from Isaiah. I took a lot of his clothes that he did not want.
Isaiah, if you're listening, I have your Doors poster.
we took a lot of shit he left in his closet when he moved out.
I think we have one of his what are they called? They're like the cloth roll things.
Yeah, I took a flag.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's for, but it's in your trunk.
Yeah.
We also took some Star Wars posters.
We also took the sword.
Okay.
He left them. I'll cut that out. Macy, what about you?
I too love Pink Floyd. I have seen The Wall previously, and it kind of just blows my mind. That's
Okay.
my opinion on it.
Well, this was my first time seeing The Wall. I've been wanting to see it for a while. I don't really like Pink Floyd at all. I grew up listening to him decently because my dad likes Pink Floyd, but never really struck a chord with me, I guess. So, Marty.
Yes.
Where to start with this? I think this is going to be a very interesting podcast because I know Sureyya didn't much care for this movie. I know you and Macy both love this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% sure where I fall on it yet.
Well, and if you're asking me to try and convince you to like it, I don't think I can.
No, I'm not asking that of you at all.
Mm-hmm.
I just... Typically you and I agree, and typically we talk more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Well, that's the thing, because now we're starting to dip into my stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and I listened to the album for years and years before I even saw the movie. So I mean, I kind of had a certain thing going into it, and I'll preface it by saying I like the music first and foremost.
Okay.
Before the film,
Yeah.
the movie doesn't even have to exist, and I would love The Wall.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not an enjoyable movie to watch. Not really. It's pretty uncomfortable and unpleasant for most of it. But that's, in my opinion, kind of part of the theme in a way.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's definitely not really a likable movie. So I mean, it's totally fair that you guys are kind of either dislike it or on the edge about it.
Yeah. Well, I think my thing with it is that I found it really boring in a lot of ways. And I think that this partially leads into a point I'd like to hit on later, more so than now. But I guess just to sort of start off, the one thing that I thought would be interesting is Sureyya, you went into this movie not knowing what The Wall is about.
Nope.
And so I'm curious to see if you could get what the movie's trying to say.
What's the story?
Well, first, I showed Aaron the notes I took yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Did I hit it in any of my notes?
Well, no, I think you should tell us.
Yeah,
because I didn't read your notes.
Just say what if you had to construct an argument for what the wall is about. What do you think it would be about?
Hold on. Let me see here.
Going through my notes, there's a lot of different takes that I get from the movie. So there's a lot of like military army stuff in it, and there's also kind of like a hint to Nazis.
Oh, there's a very strong correlation to Nazis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then
There's also like
men kind of getting corrupted by women and like falling into like this vicious cycle
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
of women.
and then I thought
Maybe it's a little bit about depression.
There's definitely themes of depression. Yeah.
So you're going very thematically with it. I'm curious narratively.
Literally, what is the story about?
What do you think
Oh.
from start to finish this story was of the wall?
Like, what happens? Because the main character, the guy that was...
Yeah.
It's Pink. What happened to Pink? What was his story?
His dad was in the army. His dad died in the army, and then he just didn't really know how to handle like fitting into social situations very well growing up.
Okay.
And that's pretty much all I can get from it.
Did you kind of figure out what do you think happened to him when he grew up?
Fell into drugs. Got addicted, almost died. And kind of just like a cycle of that.
Okay. There's no wrong answer. I was just
you're
really
not wrong.
curious.
It's open
Okay.
to interpretation.
Okay.
But it's also got an intended message.
Yeah, it does.
So Marty, what is the wall?
All right. So a lot of it is a reflection of Roger Waters' own life, because you're right. Pink's father did die during World War II. Because like he was fighting the Germans in France, or Italy. It might be Italy actually in this, because Roger Waters' real dad died in Italy during the war.
Okay.
And so this was kind of a narrative that's almost a caricature of Roger Waters' own life, but where Pink's father dies and his mother becomes super overprotective and
Okay.
sheltering, and is basically trying to put all these ideas and fears into his head, so that way he just relies on her and he stays nice and safe under her wing. And it just kind of he starts to build this wall around him, like in his head and everything,
Yeah.
between him and the world.
And then I think it starts when he's really young.
Mhm.
The start is when he's younger, and then as he gets older, the wall gets
Well, that's
higher.
the whole thing. As the story goes on, he keeps adding bricks to this wall. But when he's a kid, he's dealing with his father dying, his overprotective mother that's sheltering him and coddling him and all this other stuff. And then the teachers at school were basically stifling his creativity, trying to just be really I don't know, condescending, which is almost like a standard from that time period with education and stuff. Like, it was all about just you stay quiet, you're there to learn, you follow the rules, that's it.
Another brick in the wall.
Let's see, I got kind of a synopsis here that helps too. But so later on in life, like Roger Waters, he becomes like a rock star basically. Like really famous, touring the whole world. And during that time, the drug substance abuse starts, and he starts to he's really disassociated with himself and the world. Gets a divorce from his wife. After he finds out that she's cheating on him. That's what the phone call was. He was in America on tour. he calls home, and the other guy picks up, and so because of that, it's another brick in the wall. And then that's when he invites the groupie over, and she's all trying to be like, oh, you're a rock star, let's go do this, let's take a bath, let's drink, and he starts having these violent outbursts, and just losing himself basically. So his marriage crumbles, like he starts shaving his eyebrows and everything like this, and he basically shuts down. So his tour managers start hopping him up on drugs and shit, just trying to get him to perform and to function.
Okay.
And all the Nazi stuff that you saw when he was sending all his like brown shirts to attack people, and he was giving those speeches, this was all just in his head.
Okay.
When he was performing, like, so he envisioned himself being like this Hitler-esque dictator, trying to ostracize all the gays and the Jews and all the other minorities and stuff like that. And he basically just keeps separating himself more and more from society, from the world, and he just doesn't really know how to handle it. He's facing severe depression. And let's see, I'm trying to get another thing here, and eventually he does start to realize what's happening to him, and he wants it to stop. And he has like the cartoons at the end with the judge.
Yeah.
And all the other characters coming back. It's like this trial going on in his head, where he basically orders himself to tear down the wall, to try and open himself up again to the world.
Okay.
But at the end, it starts to rebuild again.
Okay.
So it's kind of a quick synopsis, but
And I think one of my big issues with this was that, I mean, you said you've seen this movie a lot of times,
like 3 or 4, yeah.
and you still needed to read a synopsis.
Well, because just for the order.
Yeah, I felt like it was, and because I'm looking at the IMDb page here, and it says that Roger Waters also wrote the screenplay.
Yeah.
And I think maybe a lot of my issues with this movie are coming from the fact that, as a non-Pink Floyd fan and not much of a music guy, so I'm looking at it more of just a movie lens.
Yeah.
And I objectively think it's a poorly made movie.
Yeah, I mean, and that's pretty well recognized too. I mean, even by the band themselves.
Yeah.
Because this is really the time period when Roger Waters was really starting to crack in some ways.
Yeah.
Because again, like he went through a couple marriages and divorces and everything, and a lot of the events from the movie and the album were like taken from pieces of his own life.
Okay.
And obviously exaggerated and caricaturized for the sake of art, but he basically isolated himself even from his own band during the time, and he became that almost dictator, with all creative aspects of his life, which is what pushed away his wife, which is what pushed away, David Gilmour and the rest of the band. Basically, he put his foot down with this and said, we're doing it my way or it's the highway.
Yeah.
Like, even Rick Wright, the keyboardist, he basically apparently wasn't really contributing that much. So Roger said, basically, you're out. If you want, you'll stay and finish the album, the recording process, if you want any money from it. And then we'll hire you on as just just a hired musician for the shows.
Yeah.
Not even in the band anymore.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this entire thing was just to try and get him out of tax exile.
Okay.
So that's another thing. But he had these grand ideas of, let's do a giant production that's going to cost a shit ton of money. This epic album that's all my work except for like 3 songs. And I'm going to do a film. It's all going to happen simultaneously, and I'm going to be in charge of all of it.
Yeah.
Which is almost why I think everything kind of fell short, is because he was in such a controlling mindset that he couldn't let people that had the abilities do their jobs. He had to have his finger on everything, even though he was a genius when it came to the music, which is that's his job. But when it came to filmmaking, he said, no, I still have to be the one to do it, even if he really shouldn't have.
Okay.
Which again kind of reflects the character Pink in a way too.
Yeah.
Where even all the people around him basically just are basically being forced into doing his bidding.
So I guess maybe I would like to start about the things we liked about it, if anything. So, Sureyya, did you have anything in particular that stood out as a positive of the movie?
I really liked the short animation scenes. I like those a lot better than the actual real life
Same here.
scenes.
Yeah. That was by Gerald Scarf.
Okay.
The only animated.
oh.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the only animated scene I didn't like was the last one.
With the judge?
Yeah.
Okay. I like some of the songs. I'm not a huge Pink Floyd fan, and I think that just stems from not being raised in a household.
Well, they're not
Really?
Slayer, right? And that's.
Shut the fuck up! You shut up.
Well, you're wearing your Slayer shirt, so clearly you're a huge Slayer fan.
Well,
What's your favorite Slayer song?
I fucking hate you. I hate you so much. Anyways, I think a lot of it. My mom was super into Pink Floyd. She's super into all that old, like the oldies kind of stuff, and just growing up, it was always just kind of force fed down my throat. And then my brother started falling into that, and he started trying to force feed it down my throat and saying how it was the greatest and how I should like it. And I just, me being of a rebellious nature, I was just like,
You?
no. I
I
just didn't want to.
With that, though.
So, yeah, but I liked some of the songs. Not all of them. I think there's probably one or two songs that I liked. And then something that stood out to me that I thought was interesting was how it seemed like every song fit with the scene that it was being played with.
Yeah.
I like that too.
And I mean, like I'll touch on that real quick first before going back to like my history with it, I guess. But like, I think that's because the album did come first. The music was there first, and a lot of it they did like rearrangements for just for the film to try and make it fit better, fit the times better. And they had Bob Geldof, who had played Pink, record the vocals for a lot of them.
Okay.
So it, the whole thing really wasn't a film as much as like visuals to match the album, which I think is why it fits so well.
Okay.
But, like when I grew up, my parents were, well, I guess not so much my mom, but like my dad was pretty into stuff like that, a lot of like blues, classic rock. And he had all the original Floyd albums on like, album and on vinyl, which is where I actually had to listen to The Wall first.
Okay.
I'd just sit there and play through it the entire way. Because, I mean, there's no tracks or anything, obviously, so you just start to finish it. And I would do that, like, almost every day for a while. And, like, but they were never like, hey, you should listen to this or whatever. It would just be on in the background. And honestly, I was in my teens before I'd even really known who Pink Floyd were.
Okay.
They were just another one of those, 70s rock bands. And I think, playing music kind of helps with that, too. Because I really don't look at The Wall as songs at all.
Okay.
For me, it's just kind of like a big picture kind of thing.
Okay.
The only ones that really stand out as individual songs are like Comfortably Numb or Young Lust or Run Like Hell, Another Brick in the Wall. Like they're more radio friendly ones, but I'm actually kind of sick of those ones myself. Like I don't really, like Comfortably Numb is like a really powerful piece, but they play it so much on the radio that I just don't really care for it too much. Yeah, but to me, it's really definitely a full thing. Like, you really have to just sit down with headphones, not do anything, and just, like, listen to it.
Okay.
And I think that's why a lot of people don't really understand Pink Floyd. It's because they don't make songs that you just casually listen to. Like, you have to sit down and say, I'm going to listen to this album today, and I'm going to listen to it from start to finish in one sitting. And most people just don't do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really where the divide kind of comes from with a lot of people.
Okay.
And I've always been the type to just turn off all the lights and sit there and just listen to something. And I mean, a lot of that came from trying to play guitar too, because that's how I learned. Was just sitting there and just like doing like hard listening.
Okay.
So I guess one of the things I really liked was I did dig how it was telling the story in an abstract way. I mean, I do like more artsy film. I don't think this was wholly successful in how I tried to do it, but we're not supposed to be negative right now. The other thing that I really liked was how, and Sureyya, I don't know if you caught on to any of this at all, probably not, But you and I took that Russian Hour Tour
Yes.
film class together.
Are we referencing the mother and the baby?
No.
Damn it! Because I wrote that down.
The one thing that I caught on was how back in Russian Hour Tour film movement, they had a lot of the hour tours like Eisenstein and stuff were very interested in the mechanics of montage, and not really the modern
There's a lot of montage.
like training montage or anything.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but like the very core basic concept of it. And I thought that this movie did that very interestingly because it also seemed to play with it in a way that a lot of Western movies don't, where, you know, certain images kept just kind of coming back and being recontextualized as the story progressed. Like, there's that one cool shot where he was like in the pool and he was having the PTSD flashes, and it was like going vertically over and
It
then
almost
came
looked
back
like
to
he was
land.
falling. Like
Yeah, like down a waterfall almost. And then that came over and was like overlaid towards the end during his meltdown and everything. So I definitely liked that, and I liked what it was going for.
I think it kind of takes a feeling almost and makes it visual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because I guess the 2 points I have really on the montaging like that is, one, the sense that each one of those scenes, you know, was a moment in his life that added to the wall, you know,
Yeah.
and they're trying to
For
bring that
sure.
back and saying like, now you can see the individual bricks, and you know, now that we're stepping back, we can see the whole picture.
Yeah.
And then a lot of it too is especially with the fast overlays and flashes like that, you know, the whole film I think is supposed to make you feel that sense of unease, and like even if it's cheesy and like abrupt, it's supposed to be jarring,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't think it's really supposed to be smooth, because in a way it's a representation like what's happening inside Pink's mind.
Yeah. And I'm fine with that. I don't know. I found the movie incredibly boring, honestly. Like, I liked the animation segments, but then it felt like when I was watching it that it kind of kept hitting the same points repeatedly,
Yeah.
and just kind of approaching them from slightly different angles that didn't really add anything to it. And this is kind of one of the larger discussions I wanted to have, because I like to try whenever we watch a movie kind of have an exterior conversation about it that's related to another concept.
Right.
And my one with this one that I was really interested in was I wanted to connect this movie to Bohemian Rhapsody,
Okay.
which by all accounts is a very
movie?
mediocre.
What
Yeah,
do you mean, Reps? Okay.
yeah, the new movie
Okay.
with Rami Malek. That, from all accounts, is mediocre to bad, but people generally enjoy it. And I think what is interesting to me about this movie and that is that both movies have music that people love by renowned musical artists. And I'm wondering if you don't like that music, if there's really much there. Because I don't like Queen much. I don't like Pink Floyd. So I couldn't really connect with this movie at all. And I know you're all saying that, you know, like the music was very good for you and it kind of connected into the moment and the emotions matched. But for me, it didn't at all, really. Maybe like a couple moments, but a lot of the times it felt like there was the music and that the music was there and then it was kind of just shoved into the scene, and the way that the scene was constructed didn't match the tone of the music at all.
And I think the difference is the fact that I had connected to the music previously,
Yeah.
is that the emotion was already there for that
Yeah.
particular piece. So it's not like I was trying to get the emotion from the film, you know, from
Yeah,
the scene.
definitely.
It was already there,
Mhm.
which I think makes it a little bit easier to connect to.
Yeah. I think so. But so do you think if you didn't like Pink Floyd, or you had no connection, do you think you would like this movie as much as you do?
Definitely not.
Or at all?
Oh, no, I wouldn't. If I didn't like Pink Floyd, I probably wouldn't like it.
Okay.
So
Fr-
I
from
totally get that.
because like from an artistic standpoint, you know, because I have a connection to the music is why I like it, because it's uncomfortable, because the music is uncomfortable,
Yeah.
because the character is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, it can both be artistically bad and objectively bad at the same time, I think,
Yeah.
both unintentionally and intentionally
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Okay. That was the one thing I was curious about, because I didn't want to seem shrewd that I'm like, I don't like the music, I think the movie's bad. But it's just I couldn't connect to it on really any level.
Yeah, and I really do think the music has to come first with this.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to sit down and try to understand the music at its core and be comfortable enough with all of it, with the whole album, you know, chronologically, to understand what the story is and the way it's trying to move your emotions and your mindset.
Yeah.
Because those feelings are really what the core connection is to Pink. Because from the outside looking at him, there's not much really going on.
Yeah.
And it's almost because, even though half of his problem and conflict is so internal because he does nothing.
Yeah.
He's just totally shut down, like his mind and his body, to the point when all he does is sit down and watch war movies all day.
Yeah.
You know, and I guess you kind of have to connect with that sense in order to really feel any kind of connection to Pink.
Yeah.
Like, you almost have to have been in that mindset before. And if you hadn't, just normally, you know, maybe the music could do it for you.
Yeah.
Because, you know, music can make you feel something inherently without having to try and tell you how to feel.
Yeah.
You know, you watch a film and it's saying, here, watch these things, and we're hoping these images will make you feel this kind of way. I think music gets to that internally first.
Definitely.
So
yeah.
I don't know if that makes any fucking sense, but
No, it definitely does.
it's an abstract concept, which is kind of hard to conceptualize, which I think is why music is more powerful in that sense.
Yeah.
Because it lets you feel it for yourself, because you can convince yourself of something more than anyone else can convince you.
Well, because with music, when it just sells the emotion, and then you personalize that emotion and think of a personal experience that connects you to it.
Instead of trying to sell you the experience, and then you're trying to conceptualize the emotion that goes with it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to see what else I have here. One thing that I thought I was also kind of disappointed in was I felt like the music was integrated weird, where it would kind of it would do like a short scene, and it would set up what that scene is, and then the song would come in, and this was more towards the beginning, but the song would come in, and then it would not play the entire song, and it would kind of just end. And it always left me being like, okay, well, I feel like we're kind of missing on something here, just because maybe it's just because I'm used to more traditional musicals where it's a whole big number and then it's done. Whereas this, it would come in, it'd play like a verse, and then it would just kind of be done.
That's how it is.
Okay.
You know,
Some
that's
of the
just
songs are pretty short too.
Yeah.
because if you actually look at it, it's like a two-sided thing, like either two CDs or, you know, both full sides of an album, and each one has like probably 15 different pieces on it.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not about the song. It's the song is the album.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of why it does feel a little bit jarring if you're expecting a traditional, you know, here's a 5-minute song, here's a 5-minute song. So
Yeah, and I guess when I was going in, having not seen it before, I wasn't 100% sure what to expect. I was kind of expecting it to just be one long music video. And so maybe that was why it was so jarring for me, that it just kept stopping.
Yeah.
And it was like whenever it would kind of start picking up, I felt like it would just stop and go back to square one. And it kept building up to the same point and then going back until then it climaxed, and then it went back down, and then it climaxed again, and then it was over. Which I understand is probably what it's going for, of like that sort of emotional rock or roller coaster of like depression and what he's dealing with and just not wanting to do anything.
yeah,
I just did not find it enjoyable to watch.
that's totally fair.
And I could think of, and I think the main reason I keep saying I was bored is because I enjoy movies where, you know, they do tackle similar themes, and they have odd structures like that, but there's just always something else there for me, and I didn't get that from this.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if, in some ways, that might be because because the music was first, in the sense that the movie was catered to fit the pacing of an album.
Yeah.
When it's easier to sit down and listen to an hour and a half, 2 hours of music,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, at least for me it is, than to sit there and watch something at the same pace. Because there's
Yeah.
a lot of downtime in music that's filled with just, you know, music.
Yeah.
That you get bored with if you're trying to watch something. Because the eyes get bored way quicker than the ears, I think.
Oh, yeah. Sureyya, do you have anything else you want to talk about? You've been quiet for a bit.
Not really, I don't think. A lot of my notes are basically just trying to figure out the theme of the movie and just trying to I don't know, just figure out what was going on with
Okay.
him and like his surroundings mainly.
Sometimes you need to watch it a couple of times before you get it, because the first time I watched it, I did not understand it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I get it completely now.
Okay.
So when I watch it again, I'm able to piece things together more.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, one thing that might be interesting to talk about is because as you going down your notes proved, I think, Sureyya, this movie's trying to say a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I think too much, personally.
Without really just being in your face, like telling you this is what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so I thought it would be interesting maybe if we talked about how well do you guys think it did at tackling all those subjects? Because I mean, it clearly has an agenda on war. Because it spends a lot of time looking at war. It clearly has an agenda on the education system and how it kind of churns out children and turns them into meat, which is very blatantly stated.
Yeah.
As well as having stuff about music industry, depression, relationships, how childhood affects you as you grow older and all that stuff. So how do you guys think it did at showing those things and exploring them
I
in
think
a way?
it in the sense that it was from Pink's perspective. All the themes it was trying to push were from Pink's perspective, aka like Roger's perspective that he put on Pink. Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 with the those children and stuff like that. Like they've made it pretty clear that they're not, Pink Floyd isn't as a band, and Roger Waters isn't saying fuck the school system.
Yeah.
Education is just meant to churn out blank copies of people. Because I mean they were all well into their college years and study. They're all very well educated individuals. But I think they're trying to push that narrative onto Pink.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very, very, very blatant with what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
With the war and education and the life of being a rock star and stuff like that. Which is almost in my opinion, the theme they were going for. They're trying to shove it down your throat. They're trying to make it seem so fucking gross and strong, and they're trying to make it seem like that's the only thing that should be in your head right now.
Okay.
Because when you're if you'd be in a position like Pink was, and you have this depression and anxiety and just mental issue like he does, I'd imagine these themes are just repeating themselves over and over and over in the really blatant, simple ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as far as that goes, if that's what they're trying to do, the film did pretty good. But if you try and look at it from your own perspective, I think then it's almost too blatant.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, that's not a very creative, subtle way to try and handle the subject. But I don't think the filmmakers were trying to say those things as much as Pink was trying to say those things.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
So it's more of a character study than anything else.
In my opinion, yeah, because I don't think, as filmmakers, not talking about Roger Waters, but the actual director,
Alan Parker.
because he's done other things.
Let's see what else he's done here.
I don't think he would try and tell a story like that.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it was all the images and narrative was supposed to be from the perspective of the character.
Yeah. So it looks like Alan Parker has done this. He's done 3 Madonna music videos. The Life of David Gale, Evita, Come See the Paradise, Mississippi Burning is probably his other biggest one. So he's got a very varied career, that's for sure.
And I remember I was reading interviews from him and everything, and how it was such a tedious fucking project for him because it was so far out of right wing what Roger wanted.
Yeah.
That every day he was struggling to try and make it happen and try and put some kind of context to it. So I think again there was the conflict there that did make the film suffer too.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he really wanted to make a film like that.
Yeah.
But eventually, I guess he did take it kind of to heart and tried to portray the character that Roger wanted.
Yeah.
Which is why it's so blatant too, because he's trying to interpret what Roger Waters wanted us to interpret from Pink.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a big fucking circle of.
It's like just a game of telephone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Well, did anyone else have anything else to discuss about it? That was pretty much everything I had.
You said that Roger Waters' portrayal was from his point of view as he grew up, and you said that he had an overprotective mother.
No, well, I don't think so. I think that because again, he is adding to this character's story and exaggerating it, and he was using points from his life to try and tell a story.
Okay,
that meant something to him.
When we first started, I thought you said that his father.
So he said Pink had an overprotective mother in the movie, but Roger Waters did not in real life.
Okay.
Because Roger Waters' dad did die in the war, just like Pink's. His wife did leave him, and this is while he was touring with Pink Floyd and everything like that. And so I think he was trying to make this an album as some way for him to express all the things that were going on in his own head during these events.
Okay.
I think a lot of it was him trying to process things and conceptualize it.
Okay. I was just wondering if that's what you actually meant, because watching the movie, it did not seem like he had a very protective mother, because she would just leave him at the fucking park so he can go fucking bother some other dad.
Yeah, I think it was a lot more psychological.
Okay.
Psychological dependence on her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think this movie's very clear in what it's presenting to you at all.
No.
So.
And again, because it is almost, I think, an image of. It's like trying to conceptualize the thoughts after losing your father, or losing someone you loved, and being isolated. Because a lot of the idea came from, his shows would get bigger and bigger, and he was getting more and more separated from the audience. It felt like he was just, basically playing to nothing. That's where he got the idea for the wall being put up between him and the audience, which is why on the live show they built a physical wall between them and the audience, and how people wouldn't even know who they were. They just wanted to go see the name. Oh, I went to see Pink Floyd. So what they did for the show is they had another band that wasn't even them come out first, and everyone would still go fucking nuts thinking it's Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
And it just goes to really show that the people he was playing music to, they weren't there for him or the music. They were just there for the name. And so he felt this growing divide, which is where the rock star part comes in, and I don't know. It's a lot of it was just, I think, an expression of what was going on in his head during the 10-15 years of his life, and then his father dying. And how do you conceptualize something like thoughts like that and emotions?
Yeah, because when you're going through stuff like that, in the moment, it's hard to process what you're going through until you look back on it and try to process it.
It's almost easier to tell your own story through someone else's.
Okay. Okay, I can see that.
And it's, I don't know, it's kind of cathartic, I think, to try and exaggerate things like that. It almost makes your own problems feel more trivial when you try and express that as something more than what they are.
Okay.
That's just a little bit of my own projection, I think, not so much on. I don't know if that's what Roger Waters was trying to go for, but yeah.
Well, unless anyone has anything else, then I guess we could do closing thoughts on it and look at its ratings, budget, and whatnot.
I love Pink Floyd.
All right, Marty. So, what would you rate The Wall?
6.
6 out of 10. That's it.
I would be perfectly fine without the movie.
Okay.
It's
more about the album for you.
Yeah, I'm 100% with all of these films that we watch. I'm way more of a music person I am than a film person.
Yeah. Sorry?
I think I give it like a 4.
Okay. Macy?
I would probably give it a 6 or 7.
6 or 7. Okay. I'd probably give it a 4. Personally. Yeah, I give it a 5. I think.
Okay.
Because I mean, I didn't find it engaging personally, but I can see how people would. Like, I understand why you guys like the movie so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not for me.
Yeah,
In
and
any
that's
way.
Totally understandable.
no, that when it comes to Pink Floyd, and especially the movie The Wall, that's like it's totally fair to not like it. Like
Yeah.
it's not pleasant to watch. It's not like it's boring and
It's
grotesque
long and boring
and
and just weird.
yeah.
And so then looking at it had a $12 million budget estimated, and it made 22.2. So
Okay.
not a bad profit.
Mm-hmm.
And then IMDb has it at an 8 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 71%. Metacritic has it at a 47. So
I wonder.
Metacritic's right around. Metacritic, you know.
I wonder what my mom and Rizal would think of this movie. Because my mom is, I would say my mom's a pretty big Pink Floyd fan.
Yeah.
So I would be curious to see her watch this and see her reactions to it.
I don't know what my dad would say. He fucking loves Pink Floyd.
Let's just make your dad. Oh wait, it's got boobies and stuff in it,
So
doesn't it?
my dad likes boobs. He's straight. He made me.
Yeah, but we'd have to find a time for him to watch it without Joel and Ben there,
Well, yeah. Anyways,
or Julie probably.
so then I guess we can go into our new segment that we're going to be doing each episode,
Yes.
where all of us are going to just talk about anything else that we've been watching.
Oh,
Whether we recommend it, dislike it, you know, that kind of general stuff.
Letterkenny.
Letterkenny, we've all been really going down the Letterkenny rabbit hole.
Berta.
Marty, I think Letterkenny's been having the biggest impact on you.
I love Letterkenny.
It's like almost every other sentence out of you now is a Letterkenny reference.
Something pitter patter.
Bit better, let's get at her. I don't know, Sureyya, what else have you been watching?
The Masked Singer.
That's a big
binged-
one for you.
I binged watched that sucker.
Maybe you
Um,
should say what it is.
So basically, it's a singing competition without it being long like American Idol or America's Got Talent.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not normal folk singing and auditioning. It's celebrities. They have celebrities hidden behind full-fledged costumes. Like every inch of their body is covered in their costume, and they sing, and people try to guess who it is based on how they sing.
And I think it is worth saying that it's like B to C list celebrities.
Yeah.
But it's
Like-
still directly made for the sake of marketing and nothing else. It's specifically made to make you tune in and watch it because you're curious, so then they can shove advertisements down your throat. That's
And
what
you
I
can
think.
listen to music that you like. 'Cause it's
Yeah, that
popular
I
music.
like.
Oh, fuck you. We just watched a whole fucking movie about music you like from one of the biggest fucking bands ever.
But the Masked Singer. Fucking Queen Bee motherfucker shit.
I'm glad it's night.
I bet that there's
The
at
bee
least
freaked me out.
I bet there's
Okay.
one song that they sang during that season that you liked.
Try it.
Let's see. They had American Woman.
Who doesn't like American?
They had The Greatest Showman.
Yeah,
no. Fuck. They had a
Jesus Christ.
Stevie Wonder song.
I just want to
Don't
find
you
a list
worry
of
about
fucking
a thing,
songs.
I think.
Nah.
Wake Me Up, Fight Song, Isn't She Lovely?
Fucking hate fight song.
What about Isn't
This
She Lovely?
is my fight
Shut the
song.
Stay With Me. Let's Go. I
Oh,
love
they had
it.
that Joan Jett song.
Don't Stop Me Now. American Woman. I Don't Want to Be. Poison. Livin' La Vida Loca.
Oh god, fucking hate that song.
All of Me.
So far, American Woman's the closest, and I'm still not like a Kravitz fan.
Brave. A Little Party Never Killed Nobody.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
I
A
don't know.
Rainbow. I don't know. I'm looking at the YouTube videos that popped up. California Dreamin'. My
I don't know,
Girl.
It was just, I thought.
I fucking hate My Girl. I used to play that with my blues band every night, and it was the most boring song ever.
California Dreamin'.
It lasted forever.
Can't Feel My Face. You like cocaine.
By who?
The Weeknd.
Oh, what the fuck? No. By the fucking Weeknd, what? Yeah, forget about Clapton, whatever.
Get Your Shine On.
No, but I
Thunder.
thought that show was
You're
definitely.
I fucking God! It's all the worst. See, it's a marketing ploy. It's all
That's
these,
what the wall is!
but like, this is worse. This has no art form to it.
I thought it
Not
was
so much the Max Singer, just the song.
definitely like not your typical.
It's better than American Idol.
Yeah, it's not your typical America's Got Talent, American Idol kind of thing.
Because I got rants about that too.
And like, I mean, they do have B and C list celebrities on there. Like they had fucking Bruce Willis's kid, Rumor. Who the fuck names their kid Rumor?
Godless Hollywood elitists.
So they had that. They had Gladys Knight, who was really big.
Alright, well, maybe don't go spoiling. Half the show's learning who the people are. Maybe don't go listing people.
R. Kelly.
R. Kelly's not on the show.
Fucking
There's no peeing on minors in the show. I
T-Pain.
promise. Why are you?
I'm not saying who they are.
What's
Like, how are they supposed to know who they are? They don't even know what their costumes are.
I'm gonna bleep it every time you say one of the names
Donny Osmond,
because that ruins it.
Danny Osmond,
Patton Oswalt.
fucking Joey Fatone,
Michael Jackson. Robin Williams.
Farrah
Latoya
Fawcett.
Jackson.
China. She's back. You can't keep her down.
No, but yeah, that was I'm excited for the second season because I'm excited to see who's on that one.
I also think one thing that I liked
Their marketing's working.
about The Masked Singer more than like American Idol and America's Got Talent is that it's not mean.
It's not.
Like
There's
all
no
those
constructive criticism.
Yeah, and like and American Idol and America's Got Talent aren't constructive, especially at the beginning, right? And especially American Idol. Like I had a moment when I was like 10, and American Idol was huge, where like I realized that there was a screening process where the judges don't watch everybody at all.
Yeah.
There's a screening panel of judges that judge the people and then send them in. That only pick good ones and then really bad ones just for the judges to be mean to and people to laugh at.
Yes.
And that's really fucked up to me.
Well, exactly, because it teaches kids out there that like if you want to make it in music, you have to go through this bullshit process and have everyone tell you whether you can do it or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking garbage.
Yeah.
But yeah, this show, I'll give it to that. It's people that already made it. They have nothing at stake about winning or losing.
Yeah, they're just having fun
Yeah.
more than anything. I mean, some of them have like a story of like, this is kind of my comeback, or like, you know, I'm sick of everyone knowing my name and I can just be the performance rather than the artist.
Yeah.
But it's a nice change of pace rather than people like desperately chasing a dream and being like, my dog got cancer and my mom ran away. And,
Take pity on me and let me win.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was nice.
I'm definitely excited for the second season.
I would also say the costume designs are really cool.
Fuck
They're
yeah.
all pretty creative.
Except for
and
the bee. I hate the bee.
Yeah, the bee's creepy because it has
Is it?
two mouths. The two mouths is really
it only
fucked
has
up.
one mouth.
But then the person has a mouth. So it's fucked up. You have like a mouth inside of a mouth and only one of them's moving.
Xenomorph shit over here.
I also think that like it helps
Predator.
people kind of be more open to the different kinds of music. Because I mean, Gladys Knight. No one fucking knows who Gladys Knight is. But like you hear her sing, and it's just you're curious. Because I was curious with that. I was curious with Donnie or Danny Osmond. Like I want to see more of his stuff because he's a really good singer. And then now I just want to listen to T-Pain without his auto tune.
Yeah, it did none of that for me.
Okay.
Because a lot of the songs were just like, a lot of the covers they were doing, not so much the singers.
Yeah.
Were like these just typical. You can turn on to 104.1 and fucking hear them right there. You know, and like a lot of these singers are like people that have like done other big stuff, and they're like, why are they singing this shit? You know.
Yeah.
But that's just because I'm a fucking stuck-up snob.
What have you been watching, Marty?
Huh?
Besides Letterkenny.
What have we been
Nothing.
watching,
Game
Marty?
of Thrones.
Yeah, besides Game of Thrones too, because that's
I think
all I
I
watch.
heard
We've been
Macy
watching Game of Thrones a lot.
watching Futurama. You've been
Yeah.
going through Futurama.
I kind of just use it for background noise at this point. 'cause
Dude, there's an
it's
entire
comfortable and
subreddit for
familiar.
people that fall asleep to Futurama. But which is uncanny because I just had DVDs of that. That was all I had. I would just put them on in the background and just immediately go to sleep without
That's
watching.
what I like too. Yeah.
But
With like
Right.
Family Guy and Futurama and Bob's Burgers, I usually just put them on because kind of easy on the ear, I suppose.
You've already seen him a million times.
You've
so.
seen him, you know what's going on, so you can be doing stuff and you know what's going on.
We did watch Alita Battle Angel recently.
Yeah,
Yes, we
what do you guys
did.
think about that?
I thought it was pretty good. Marty didn't think it was as good as I
Well,
did, but
It was super predictable, and they did know there's a lot of like holes on like
yeah,
because it's not really a spoiler to say that basically she doesn't know who she is or whatever in the very beginning, and she doesn't like question it at all, and it freaks me out. And they jumped into it too quick, I think. But aside from that, it was
Yeah.
really, really visually interesting to look at and watch.
yes, very visually pleasing, but the story did have holes in it.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like a mid-teenage type movie, I think. As far as
Yeah.
storytelling and script.
It wasn't.
And everyone said the script was pretty garbage, and it kind of is.
I expected it to be darker
I wish it was darker because it looked really cool, but I wish the story kind of fit the aesthetic.
because it was.
Okay.
I did like the aesthetic, the whole post-apocalyptic, like half the people are walking around without arms and legs and mechanical
Basically,
stuff.
that's the thing.
and-
Like,
and these punk-looking fuckers. And
well, yeah, it's basically
It was
like a
cool.
lot of the main sport thing is like kind of like roller derby, but like everyone's.
Okay.
They basically get rid of their arms and like body parts and replace them with these big robot machine like things. So they turn into like these cyborgs that have extra powers and abilities and like weapons
So,
and stuff on them. And then
what
they
you're saying?
Yeah.
It's a prequel to Cyberpunk.
hopefully
I was thinking that we need a Laser League movie.
yeah that'd be fun too. It's just Tron.
I'm super excited to see that one. It's on top of my list right now.
But yeah, I mean it was a really cool concept though. I mean yeah, people like there was people that like died and stuff, but like if they would have made it like a rated R, I think it would have been really fucking cool.
yeah, because it wasn't dark enough for what the aesthetic was.
Again, it was like, for younger people saying like, oh, this is
Yeah.
dark, but we can't really show you what it's actually doing.
Damn you, younger people!
Well, it is made by Robert Rodriguez and James Cameron, so.
James Cameron.
And I also think it's interesting. I was looking at the screenwriters for it. So it was It was directed by Robert Rodriguez, screenwritten by James Cameron and a lady named Leda Kalogridis, who is a Greek-American screenwriter, whose other movies are Terminator Genesis, White House
God.
Down, and Shutter Island.
It's like
Shutter Island was pretty
Shutter
good.
Island is very good. That
the
is
White House Down was probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen. in my goddamn
and
life.
Terminator Genesis is probably worse than White House Down.
Never seen that. Never going to.
Oh, Shutter Island had another writer
What
too,
did
so maybe
James
that's why.
Cameron do?
Avatar,
Okay.
Terminator,
I
and
wanted to
Aliens.
make sure that it was Avatar so that I could say Papyrus.
He did Avatar, Avatar 2, Avatar 3, Avatar 4, Avatar 5, Titanic.
Those are not out yet. Stop spoiling it.
He's
for everyone.
fucking made the first two though. They're in editing.
I'm
That's
excited.
all he's doing for the rest of his fucking
Who's
life.
excited? I'm excited.
I'm not. I hate. Oh, he did Rambo 2? What the fuck?
Adrian.
Well, I mean, Marty's also been going through Game of Thrones.
We have been watching a lot of Game of Thrones, all of us.
I don't like Game of Thrones. I don't know what you're talking about.
And then I guess I still have to go. I watched Burn After Reading again. That's
You finished Mad Men.
still fantastic. I finally finished Mad Men. That was a while ago.
It's been a while since we had a podcast.
And then I started watching BoJack
BoJack
Horseman
again.
for the third time.
You sick bastard.
And I'm almost towards the end of season 2 now. And it is better than I remembered.
Is it hitting you hard, though?
It always does. It always hits me hard. It's always depressing. Even last night, Sarah and I were laying in bed, and I was finishing up an episode. And she just started... She started watching it, like, the third act of the episode. And, I like, kind of explained to her the characters. Because you know some of the characters just from me watching it. But so I was kind of explaining where they are in the plot and like why they are where they are and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, BoJack and Diane got in some like existential crisis about chasing happiness.
Like every episode. That's every episode.
They were just starting on it because Diane was like, "Oh, if this had gone right and this had gone right, would you be happy?" And BoJack's like, "Yeah, for a little bit, but like, there's got to be something else, right?" And then Ray was just like, "Stop it! I can't watch this with you." And she just rolled over and was like, "Nope, not fucking doing it."
It's too real.
Yeah, so that's what we've been up to.
Macy, you just finished Planet recently.
I did.
You watched Planet?
Yeah, and I made a dongle.
Planet? I don't know what that is.
It's an anime.
Oh,
It
okay.
was so
That's why I
good.
don't know it.
It just ruined anime for me though because I just thought it was so good, and it made me cry several times. And now I can't watch any other animes because I can't connect to the characters as much.
What is that
I
She's just chasing the dragon.
am going to counteract that because I think Macy would really fucking love my love story.
That's a good point. That's a totally different direction, though. Planet is not like My Love Story.
Everyone
I guess.
everyone loves My Love Story because My Love Story is the best
Okay.
anime.
Wrinkle.
All three of
Wrinkle
us
Sun.
love my love story, and I think we could add a fourth.
Yeah.
If you're willing to try it.
I'd be down
Sure.
to watch it again.
I'd be down to watch it.
But
I've
Macy,
been wanting to
It's
watch
gotta one up Planet.
it's totally different. Different direction.
Different direction.
Don't compare it to Planet.
Okay.
So, why don't you explain to... I don't really know what it's about either.
Yeah. So what is Clannad?
Well, it's got 2 parts. Part 1 is 24 episodes, and so is the after story is 24 episodes. So it's kind of is definitely a commitment, and I think it's kind of slow in the beginning, but it's all about the character development and getting you totally like committed to these characters, and then there's kind of a tragedy in the after story, and in between there's all these kind of the main guy is kind of spoilery here, but the main guy, he's a delinquent. He grew up with a bad home life. His mother died, his dad's an alcoholic, and he grew up being a delinquent. And when he gets into high school, he kind of he's the helpful guy. He likes to help people out, but he can't really help himself. So along the way, it's just he's helping people with their problems and overcome their issues. And there's kind of a supernatural thing going on in it too with some of the stories, but it's not like a consistent story. The only thing that's consistent is the main guy, and then he meets this girl, and eventually after a while they get together, and that's the only constant really. But then in the after story there's a tragedy, and they've gotten you so emotionally delved into these 2 characters that it hurts so bad.
Okay.
So it is kind of slow sometimes. It's not really actiony. It's more of a feel-good, lovey-dovey thing, and then they hit you with this tragedy, and
Like
it
every
gives
good
you-
anime does.
yes,
Except for
it
My
was
Love Story.
So
Got
good.
it.
Well,
You
my
know,
love
and I've
story got
seen it-
pretty close to that.
Like
I've
the
seen
Saran
it
wrap.
twice.
Sureyya.
Sona! I hate the fact that my favorite anime is My Love Story
Why?
because it's so lame.
No, it's not.
Like anime is such an exaggerated, like adrenaline pumped masculine genre in general, where like everything's power levels and demons and edgy dudes with scars and tattoos.
You are fucking
And then-
hot as shit.
And then like I've only watched like a season of Attack on Titan and all of the Dragon Balls, and that's pretty much all the anime I've watched. And then I'm like, yeah, but the best one is about 2 high schoolers dating.
Well,
that's all it is.
That's the thing. There's like 3 categories. There's all those action ones.
Mhm.
Like DBZ and like all like the My
Bleach
Hero
and
Academia.
Naruto.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Shonen Jump.
Yeah, that kind
Style.
of stuff. And then there's the ones that are like My Love Story, where they're just funny and stupid,
Yeah.
but like tame.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like the serious ones that are tame, like Clannad or Canon and stuff like that,
They're feel-good ones.
where it's basically like a little bit more realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one was more realistic, kind of supernaturally tones.
Okay.
With, like, spiritual tones.
That's
I
what I
would
say,
say.
because we've been watching K-On! Too, and that's like the
K-On!
least intense thing I've ever seen in my goddamn life.
I know, it's so anticlimactic.
It's just they're just in a light music club and they play in a band. That's it.
And, they,
I'm surrounded by fucking weebs.
and the only thing that keeps them around is tea time and snacks.
oh my goodness.
It's like the most easy to watch thing ever. There's like no conflict. It's just
What the fuck?
I had that when I watched Ballers for a while, where it was in between semesters or something, and I was like really bored, and I've always hated sleeping, so it was like every night. So right now I would get off Xbox, I'd go to bed at like midnight or 1 in the morning, and I'd spend like 2 to 3 hours watching Ballers, which I don't know if you guys know what Ballers
I
is.
don't know what ball.
It is the most low stakes show I've ever seen in my life. Every episode, so It stars Dwayne The Rock Johnson, and it's on HBO.
Oh my god.
And he is a manager. He's like an account manager. He's an ex-pro football player that just manages the finances of other pro football players in Florida. So it's all like really nice cars and hot girls in bikinis and nice suits. And he just walks around, has conversations with people, and like every episode there's some stupid little conflict, and he intimidates the person, and then it's over. And that's every fucking episode, and I watched all of it.
Sounds like
and
the new
I hated
Baywatch.
It pretty much is. It's exactly like that.
The Rock found his niche.
Yeah, there's no conflict in K-On. Like, yeah, we're all gonna get part-time jobs so we can buy this $2,000 guitar for our friend. Like,
Oh my
That
god.
sounds like a sitcom.
and it's like we both were saying, yeah, I wish I had friends that were that like eager to help me out. Sacrifice.
All right, Sureyya, what is your pick in our last musical movie? What will we be watching for next week? This time we're not going to take 2 weeks off because we're going to be able to find it. What's your pick?
La La Land.
Okay.
That's a movie?
That is a movie.
It's with Ryan Gosling
And Emma Stone.
Emma Stone, yeah.
You're gonna hate it.
It had the Oscar fiasco
Oh,
where it was
yeah.
like, La La Land. No, guys, it was Moonlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know why you're going to hate it? They save jazz.
Fuck! Fucking makes no fucking sense. So confusing.
All right, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll be back next Monday.
To watch
After
jazz.
watching La La Land, watching Let's Save Jazz, the movie. You can follow us on SoundCloud and iTunes, YouTube, or Instagram as Default White Guys. Deus Ex Cinema on iTunes and SoundCloud. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
I guess it's fair I made you guys watch The Wall.